Hello and welcome back to another video. Today here again on Forza Horizon 5 to test out another week's brand new Car Pass car. So this one, well, the final one that we know about for the moment until the stream later on today, is the 488 Challenge. So a full-on racing car effectively in the game, obviously not road legal, so slightly questionable why it's in here, but we do have the FXXK and FXXK Evo already, which I suppose same kind of thing goes for. But anyway, it's got a 3.9 litre V8, pretty similar to the road car, producing, well, apparently 670 horsepower, although Forza seems to rate it at 661, 60 newton meters of torque. It weighs 1,453 kilos, putting it at the bottom of S2 at 991, so a bit lower than the FXXK Evo that was obviously at the top of S2, because that's well, purpose-built to be as crazy as possible, whereas this is, in the end, based on a 488 road car. But yes, the challenge is a series that's going on for a while of what they call their Corsa Clienti vehicles, where basically incredibly rich people pay to not quite own a car that Ferrari will deliver to a track for, well, in this case with the challenge, a racing series for you to actually compete in races, or in the case of the FXXKs and Evos, a car they deliver to a track for you to lap round by yourself. But anyway, it follows on from a long line of challenge vehicles, starting with the 355 Challenge, but they've done challenge cars of the 360, F430 and 458 previously, so this is kind of the latest one. Presumably there'll be an F8 Tributo Challenge at some point, to kind of, well, get people to buy the latest ones. But yeah, effectively it means you compete in a race series against other Corsa Clienti customers who have also bought or paid into the 488 Challenge program. I did actually find a used one for sale, which I didn't know that was kind of how it worked, and it was, well, cheaper than I thought it would be. There is one currently for sale here in the UK for £154,000. Same colour as this one, in fact, which for a full-out racing car isn't too bad. That's probably, to be honest, cheaper than a normal 488 Challenge, although if we're being honest, a normal 488, I mean, if I'm being honest, that's kind of more useful, because you can drive it on the road rather than just in, well, 5 races a year or whatever this is. But anyway, it should be pretty good to drive here in Forza, so let's head on out and see what a full-on racing car feels like. The best place to drive it is probably, well, here at the circuit, which is obviously also where I'll be lapping it in a minute, expecting it to be pretty good. But yeah, because it's a racing car, there's no point testing top speed and anything, because it won't be that high, because it's for lapping circuits quickly, not top speed. That wing is massive. But yeah, effectively, I think it is, well, almost a GT3 car. I don't think it is quite, because, well, GT3 cars are driven by professionals, and any old idiot can, well, if they've bought enough expensive Ferraris in the past, sign up to this program. So I think it is slightly friendlier to drive, at least. It's probably got more assists. There's some kind of fancy slip-slide control thing I was reading about on the internet, which these things are installed with. But as you'd expect, it drives, well, a bit like a racing car. Have kept it in the yellow and blue livery because it, well, it's supposed to be a specific car, this one that we've got in Forza. It is supposed to be the number 25, and the yellow and blue looks brilliant, so I'm kind of tempted not to change it. It's also pretty cool in the interior. I mean, look at all of that carbon fibre and all the big ear bits in the seat, and that being killed by a 355. Anyway, yeah, it's very cool. And it's already got the fancy electrical cut-off things on the bonnet and the tow arrows, so it would kind of be a shame to remove a livery that's already got all of those bits on. I have to say the red engine with a yellow and blue livery looks a little bit out of place. But yeah, there's not really much I can tell you driving around in free roam, because in the end it is a track car. So I think what we should do is, well, do what we're supposed to do with track cars, take it for its 5 proper laps of the track, and see how it compares to, well, all the many road cars we've taken round. So, as with all the other new cars, the Ferrari got 5 laps around the festival. What you're seeing here is the fastest time I managed to set. So this is only the 5th S2 class car stock that I've taken around. Right at the bottom of S2 though, all the others are kind of 963 and above. But yeah, it immediately felt comfortable to drive. Well, I didn't really gradually get faster, if you see what I mean. I did get a bit faster. It was actually the 4th lap that was my fastest, but I was kind of consistent straight away and felt confident driving it. I mean, you should. It's a racing car, and as it's designed for the Corso Clienti program, where any old idiot can basically sign up to race it, you would expect it to be quite user-friendly as racing cars go. But yeah, racing cars are generally high downforce, so quite predictable and nice to drive anyway. Didn't have the most go on the straights, which I feel let it down a little bit, because the time is not quite as fast as you might imagine. So yes, the best time I could get out of the 488 challenge in the 5 laps throughout the festival was a 59.693, which sounds pretty fast, but it is into S2 class at 911 PI, but it only beat the Aventador SVJ that's 889 PI down in S1 class by, well, a tenth, basically, of a second. So, not quite as much as you would expect. I mean, obviously the SVJ is a super track focused version of the Aventador, and this being a racing car maybe it should have more downforce and grip, but I think it just didn't have quite as much go on the straights as the Aventador, and in Forza the advantage of all-wheel drive in the Aventador does make quite a big difference, so that probably explains why it's not a huge amount faster than that. It is, however, 3 seconds slower than the next S2 class, the Rimac. But yeah, it's kind of to be expected. Those cars are quite a lot higher performance index, quite a lot more powerful. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see, first of all, when we go and look at upgrades, which is what we'll do next, if it's possible to drop it into S1, because I think we're going to struggle to get it to the top of S2, because generally there won't be many options for a racing car such as this. But let's go and have a look. So I would now say at this point, as always, let's have a look at the aero and appearance and conversion options. But, well, there is no aero and appearance, so that's one less thing to have a quick look at. But we will look at conversions quickly first, because there sometimes are some unique options in here. In terms of engine swaps, we've got a racing V12 and a V12 hybrid. I thought we'd have that. That's effectively the, well, LaFerrari or FXXK engine. So that's interesting. Well, that takes it to 950 already, and it's probably lighter than that car. So that might be interesting, although generally in here I try to keep the standard engine and drivetrain. Obviously you've got an all-wheel drive swap in there. As for tyres, I'm guessing we're already on slicks. Yep, so you could... there you go. So off-road tyres immediately drops it to S1, because I think this might actually be more competitive as an S1 class car than an S2 class car, so I think we might build it to S1. So I have built it to the top of S1, got the power up to 734 horsepower, the weight down, so we've brought the performance index down 11, and it's more powerful and lighter. Yes, the tyres won't be quite as good, but I have widened them and brought out the track width as well, so hopefully that makes up for it a little bit. I did find rather interestingly that you can add weight reduction to this, so I might have to come back and do a second build to S2. But given there's a lot of S1 class cars on the leaderboard, and I'm more comfortable driving that, I think we should go and see how it compares to that XJ220 TWR, which is currently top of the modified S1 class leaderboard. So, as with the stock version of the car, it was given another 5 laps to see what the best time I could set was. And, well, obviously it was slightly slower, slightly less grip with those tyres. I could feel the back sliding around a bit. So I should have known, because even in its stock configuration, the time it set was not was not fast enough to be top of the S1 class modified cars. So obviously downgrading it was going to make it even slower. So I don't think I really thought this through. Also, I've only just noticed in this replay that the best lap time on the screen in the interior view is actually my best lap time, which is a cool little detail. I did not realise it did that, although I think it's been that since the start of the time trial in replay, because I'd already set it even though it was on a lap a little way in. It also seems to say my traction control's on 2 and ABS is on 2 in here, which is a little bit annoying because I know they're off. But anyway, yeah, bit of a waste of time this tune in the end. So as you already know, because the lap time was on the dashboard, the Ferrari did a best time of a 1 minute .394, making it the third slowest S1 class car, behind even a Lamborghini Urus. So that was all a bit of a waste of time. Let's go and put an S1 class, S2 class tune on it now, and see, well, what it does. We've got nothing else really to compare it to, but yeah, S1's clearly not a good idea. So let's build it to S2 and see what it can do. Okay, so after a little bit of fiddling around with parts to balance the performance index so it's not in X class, which it gets to quite comfortably, it now has 1300 horsepower from a LaFerrari engine that I put twin turbos on. It's quite substantially lighter, because somehow you can put weight reduction on this. I suppose it's not as highly modified as the GT3 cars and stuff. So yes, it is now at S2 998, and it is possible to get it, well, into X class, but that's kind of irrelevant once you get to that level, so I think balancing it to 998 makes more sense. Let's go and see how it does around the festival. So, another 5 laps in, well, it's S2 configuration. You can probably already see what lap time it did, because it's on the dashboard again. But yeah, it was a bit leery. It was sliding all over the place, way too much power. It might just be because it's S2 class and I don't like S2 class. But yeah, it's kind of not really very drivable. So I'd really recommend keeping this car stock if I was you, because, well, I don't know if that's a good time or not. I'm guessing not the way it felt to drive. It didn't feel like a good lap, but no other cars on the board to compare it to in S2. But yeah, it's not really very nice to drive like this. Potentially you could completely maximum upgrade it, all-wheel drive swap it and all of that nonsense and make it X-Class, but then obviously you couldn't use it for anything, so anyway, not all that great. So yes, the best lap time was a 53.287, which is about 2 seconds slower than the X-Class built FXXK Evo. So yeah, there's no other S2 class cars to compare to, but based on how leery it was to drive and what a scruffy lap it was, I would say that probably wasn't a very good lap time. But yeah, it would be interesting to see once, well, as always, what happens when people who know what they're doing with tuning get their hands on it, or potentially with an all-wheel drive tune. It would be more controllable and more manageable. But yeah, it's not been great in either S1 or S2, which unusually I've built it to 2 categories today, neither of which really worked very well. It was lovely to drive stock. It's a nice car to have in here, something different, a racing car we don't often get in Horizon, because obviously it's an open world game, not a racer, not a track racer. So cars like this rarely get added, but yeah, it's lovely to drive stock. Would potentially be fun in one-make races, which is kind of what it's designed for in reality, but modified to S1 and S2, at least for me, it's not been very good. I kind of doubt it would be. It's slow, so slow that I don't think even if tuned well it would be particularly competitive. But we'll wait and see. Maybe somebody will create a fast all-wheel drive tune for it. So yeah, not been that great, but it was reasonable to drive stock. So do go and get this car, just don't modify it. But anyway, that is a first look at the 488 challenge here on Forza Horizon 5. So tomorrow I will be coming back, same time tomorrow, to take a look at the new Nissan GT-R Nismo. So do watch out for that one coming in tomorrow's video. But for now, for a first look at the 488, that is going to be all. We'll wait and see what Car Plus cars we're going to get in the next update, and whether there will be any new festival playlist cars as well. But yeah, that's going to be all for this video. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back with the next video very soon.